This was not on anyone's holiday bingo card, while most families were posting matching pajamas and fake smiles. This situation dropped like a silent grenade straight into the middle of an already messy storyline, because when photos surfaced of Chrisean celebrating the holidays with Junior alongside LiAngelo Ball, the internet didn't say it said, "Wait, what?" And somewhere in the background, Karlissa saw it too. That's when everything shifted. This wasn't just a holiday visit. This wasn't just co-parenting flexibility. This was optics, timing, symbolism. The kind of move that doesn't need an explanation to feel loud, and the internet immediately understood the subtext. New faces, new energy, new traditions, all happening without Blueface front and center. Fans zoomed in, screenshots flew, comment sections went feral. Because when a child is involved and a famous last name enters the picture, people don't whisper, they speculate. And Karlissa's reaction, that became the real headline. Whether it was shock, frustration, or something much deeper, the energy was unmistakable. This wasn't just about where Junior spent the holidays, it was about what this moment represented: boundaries being crossed, rules being blurred, and a family dynamic that refuses to stay quiet. The internet didn't discover this story gently. It tripped over it, dropped its phone, and immediately started recording. Holiday photos don't usually cause chaos, but these weren't normal pictures. This wasn't matching pajamas or awkward family dinners. This was Chrisean Jr. and LiAngelo Ball in the same holiday frame, smiling comfortably enough to make everyone else uncomfortable. And once those images hit the timeline, the reaction wasn't curiosity, it was alarm, because nothing triggers internet speculation faster than a child, an ex, and a new male present sharing a holiday moment. That combination doesn't whisper, it screams subtext, and people heard it loud and clear. The comments started instantly, questions stacked on top of assumptions. Where's Blueface? Since when did this happen? How long has this been going on? The holiday lights weren't even fully noticed because the internet was too busy zooming in on body language, proximity, and vibes like they were decoding a spy thriller. But the real tension didn't come from the fans. It came from Karlissa. Because when you've been loud, involved, and unapologetically vocal about family matters in the past, silence isn't an option, and reaction isn't a suggestion, it's expected. The internet didn't just want to know how she felt. It assumed she felt something. This situation wasn't random. It didn't feel accidental. The timing alone raised eyebrows. Holidays are symbolic. They're about tradition, presence, and who's considered family in the moment. And this moment sent a message whether anyone admitted it or not. Junior wasn't just spending time with his mother. He was visibly included in a different circle, a different environment, a different narrative. And once that narrative formed, people immediately asked the question nobody says softly: is this temporary, or is this the new normal? That's where the discomfort kicked in, because this wasn't about jealousy or competition. It was about optics and boundaries when a new male figure appears during a holiday moment involving a child. The internet treats it like a press conference. Everything gets analyzed: tone, placement, smiles, even who's standing closest. And LiAngelo's presence didn't go unnoticed, not because he did anything wrong, but because of who he is: a known name, a known family, a different kind of stability. Compared to the chaos people associate with Chrisean's past, the contrast alone was enough to spark theories. Suddenly, people weren't just talking about holidays. They were talking about upgrades, replacements, and subtle power moves. As if this was a chess match disguised as a Christmas photo. Karlissa's reaction, whether direct or indirect, became the emotional focal point because she represents something deeper in this dynamic: legacy, control, voice. And when something shifts involving a child connected to that legacy, it doesn't go unnoticed. Supporters of Chrisean framed it as growth, healing, moving forward, creating healthier spaces. Critics framed it as disrespectful, too soon, too public. The internet split clean down the middle, and neither side planned to budge. What made this moment feel explosive wasn't just who was present, it was who wasn't. Blueface's absence loomed like a shadow, not visibly present, but heavily felt. Because when a father isn't front and center during a holiday moment involving his child, the narrative writes itself whether it's fair or not. And the internet is very good at writing stories without permission. That absence fueled speculation. Fast. Was this intentional? Was this co-parenting flexibility? Or was this a statement being made quietly but clearly? People didn't wait for answers. They decided. Karlissa, known for speaking her mind, suddenly found herself at the center of another family discussion she didn't schedule. And the internet watched closely, waiting for cues, any post, any caption, any reaction that could confirm or deny the assumptions already spiraling. Because when someone has been vocal before, silence becomes loud, and this silence didn't feel neutral. It felt loaded. People started revisiting old conflicts, old arguments, old interviews, old lives where family dynamics were already tense. This moment didn't exist in isolation. It plugged directly into a history that viewers already memorized. That's what made it memories resurfaced. Opinions hardened. Sides were chosen. And let's be honest, the internet doesn't care about nuance when it smells drama. It wants clear villains, clear victims, and clear motives. And this situation refused to provide any of that cleanly. Chrisean looked comfortable. Junior looked happy. LiAngelo looked calm. None of those things fit neatly into outrage. And that made people uncomfortable. Because when a moment looks peaceful but feels controversial, the internet starts inventing reasons why. This is where sarcasm crept in. Jokes about new family units. Comments about replacement roles. Memes implying unspoken tension. Humor disguised the discomfort, but the underlying message stayed the same. Something had changed, and change is threatening when it happens publicly. Karlissa didn't need to say much for people to project emotion onto her. Shock, disbelief, anger, hurt, all of it got assigned without confirmation. Because once the internet believes it understands someone, it stops waiting for them to speak. By the end of this phase, the holiday moment had fully transformed into a family storyline with no official narrator. Everyone watching filled in the blanks with their own expectations and frustrations. What could have been a private memory became public commentary. What could have been simple became symbolic. And what started as a holiday celebration became a flashpoint in an already complicated family saga. And this was just the beginning. Because once the internet decides a moment means something, it doesn't let go easily. It waits for reactions. It hunts for confirmations. And it pushes the story forward whether the people involved wanted to or not. Once the holiday photos finished their first lap around the internet, the situation officially left family moment territory and entered full-blown spectacle. The tone shifted fast. This wasn't curiosity anymore. This was commentary season. Everyone suddenly had a theory, a take, and a microphone, and none of them planned to wait their turn. Memes hit first, and they hit hard. Side-by-side comparisons flooded timelines. Old clips resurfaced. Screenshots got captions that didn't even try to be subtle. People joked about new traditions, new faces, and new chapters, treating the situation like a reboot nobody asked for but everyone was watching. Humor became the language of discomfort, and the jokes carried sharp edges. Reaction channels jumped in next, treating the photos like evidence in a case file. Calm voices, serious faces, dramatic pauses before saying what everyone already knew they were about to say. This isn't just about holidays. This is about boundaries, about optics, about power moves disguised as peace. And once that framing took hold, the outrage split into camps. One side argued this was growth, maturity, a mother creating a stable, calm environment for her child. They praised Chrisean for moving forward, for not being trapped in old chaos, for choosing peace over noise. To them, the holidays looked normal, healthy, even. The other side wasn't buying it. They called it messy, calculated, and unnecessarily. Public, they questioned timing, intent, motive. Why now? Why like this? Why include a new male figure during such a symbolic moment? To them, it felt like a statement disguised as celebration. And hovering over all of it was Karlissa's expected reaction. People weren't just watching the situation. They were waiting for a post, a caption, a reaction video, anything that could confirm the emotions they had already assigned to her. Because in the internet's mind, Karlissa doesn't stay quiet. She responds, she reacts, she speaks. Her mind thought so when she didn't immediately explode. Speculation intensified. Some read the silence as shock. Others read it as restraint. A few read it as brewing frustration waiting for the right moment. And that uncertainty became fuel. Because silence, when you're expected to be loud, becomes the loudest thing in the room. The commentary escalated. When people started dragging old dynamics back into the conversation, previous family disputes, past interviews, old live streams where tensions were already visible. This moment wasn't new. It felt like the next episode in a series people had been binge-watching for years. And LiAngelo's presence added another layer entirely. Not because he said anything, not because he did anything, but because of what he represents. A different image, a different family name, a different kind of public reputation. The contrast was unavoidable, and the internet leaned into it aggressively. Suddenly, this wasn't just about who Junior spent the holidays with. It was about comparison culture, about stability versus chaos, about what kind of future people imagined based on a few smiling photos, and the assumptions ran wild. Some commenters framed LiAngelo as a positive influence, a calmer presence, a visual shift away from volatility. Others accused the internet of projecting fantasies onto a situation they didn't understand. But once projection starts online, it doesn't stop for reality checks. Karlissa became the emotional proxy in all of this. People spoke about her feelings as if they were confirmed facts: hurt, betrayal, disbelief, frustration. None of it verified. All of it confidently stated. That's how the internet works. It doesn't wait for confirmation. It crowdsources emotion. As the conversation grew louder, the tone grew harsher, sarcasm sharpened, jokes got more biting. Some comments crossed from playful speculation into outright hostility. Others tried to pull the conversation back, reminding people that a holiday photo doesn't tell a full story. Those voices got buried quickly because outrage loves momentum. The story reached peak chaos when the phrase "new family dynamic" started trending in comment sections. That phrase alone carried enough implication to keep the discourse alive. For days, people debated whether that was fair, cruel, or completely imagined. But once the idea entered the conversation, it refused to leave. Chrisean's lack of direct response during this phase only intensified things, just like before. Silence became a canvas. Supporters saw grace, critics saw avoidance, neutrals saw strategy, and everyone else saw drama. Meanwhile, Karlissa's eventual reactions, even subtle ones, were dissected like ancient texts. Tone, word choice, timing, everything mattered. Even what wasn't said felt intentional. The internet treated every move like a clue. At this point, the original holiday celebration barely mattered anymore. The photos had transformed into symbols of change, of distance, of unresolved tension, of shifting roles. And symbols are far more powerful than facts. Online. The discourse spilled beyond fence spaces into general pop culture. People who didn't follow any of the individuals involved suddenly had opinions. To them, it wasn't personal, it was entertainment. A family drama unfolding publicly with no script and no filter. That's when the narrative officially detached from the people living it. Because once a story becomes content, it stops caring about consequences. It exists to be consumed, debated, and reshaped until the next headline arrives. By the end of this phase, the situation had grown far beyond a holiday moment. It became a cultural conversation about co-parenting, boundaries, and public family dynamics. And no matter where people stood, one thing was undeniable: this wasn't over. The reactions had layered too thickly, the assumptions had traveled too far, and the expectations for what came next were too high by the time the noise settled. The damage didn't look dramatic, it looked quiet, and quiet damage is always the most dangerous kind. Because it doesn't announce itself, it just changes how people look at you when your name comes up. That's what this holiday moment did. It didn't explode the family dynamic. It subtly rewired it in public view. For Chrisean, the aftermath wasn't about backlash in the traditional sense. There was no mass cancellation, no apology tour demanded, no emergency livestream to explain herself. Instead, there was something more uncomfortable, a shift, a pause, a recalibration in how people spoke about her choices. The internet stopped asking what happened and started asking what it meant. Every future move began carrying extra weight. A post wasn't just a post anymore. It was another signal. A smile wasn't just a smile, it was intentional. That's how viral family moments linger. They don't fade, they hover, waiting to be attached to whatever happens next. Junior, whether anyone liked it or not, became part of that hovering narrative. Not directly, not explicitly, but symbolically. And that's where the situation crossed into delicate territory. Because when a child becomes part of a public storyline, people don't let go easily. They keep score. They remember optics more than facts. Karlissa felt that shift to her reaction, or what the internet interpreted as her reaction, became frozen in time, whether she expressed shock, discomfort, or restraint. The internet assigned permanence to it. From that point on, any interaction involving her was filtered through this moment. Every comment she made later was read for subtext. Every silence was interpreted as loaded. That's the trap of public family dynamics. Once the audience believes, it understands the emotional map. It stops waiting for updates and starts predicting outcomes, and those predictions become expectations. The idea of new family energy never fully left the conversation. It resurfaced casually, in jokes, in side comments, in reaction threads months later. Not always malicious, but persistent. That phrase became shorthand for change. Whether that change was real or imagined, for LiAngelo, the situation carried a different kind of consequence. Not backlash, but projection. He became a symbol without asking to be one. Calm, stability, contrast. The internet placed expectations on him that were never discussed or agreed to. And once that happens, silence becomes suspicious, even when it's appropriate. This is the downside of being adjacent to a viral moment. You don't control the role you're assigned. You just inherit it. As time passed, the story stopped trending, but never disappeared. It became one of those reference points people casually pull out when discussing family dynamics in this circle. Not always with hostility, sometimes with curiosity, sometimes with judgment disguised as concern. The internet didn't demand closure, because it doesn't actually want it. Closure ends conversation. Ambiguity keeps engagement alive. And ambiguity is exactly where this moment settled. Chrisean didn't redefine the narrative. She didn't correct assumptions. She didn't clarify intent. And that choice did something unexpected. It forced the audience to sit with uncertainty. Some people respected that, others resented it. But either way, it removed the performance aspect the internet usually feeds on. No spectacle, no meltdown, no defensive monologue. Just continuation. That alone frustrated the audience enough to eventually move on. But even as attention shifted, the long tail effect stayed behind. The family dynamic now existed in a slightly altered shape online. Not broken, not resolved, just different. The biggest consequence wasn't outrage. It was reframing. Where people once saw chaos, some now saw transition. Where others once saw conflict, they now saw distance. And where people once expected explosive reactions, they now expected restraint. That's not a small change, because expectations shape reactions, and reactions shape narratives. This moment didn't end relationships. It didn't crown new ones either. It simply added a chapter the internet refuses to forget. One that will be referenced whenever something similar happens again, one that quietly follows everyone involved. That's how public family moments age. Not as scandals, but as context. And context is powerful. Months from now, when another holiday rolls around, people will remember this one not because it was dramatic, but because it felt symbolic. Whether that symbolism was accurate doesn't matter. The internet already decided it was meaningful. And once the internet decides that, it doesn't ask permission to remember it. This wasn't a breaking point, it was a turning point. Not loud enough to end anything. Not quiet enough to ignore. Just loud enough to change the tone of the conversation forever. If you made it all the way here, congratulations! You just survived another episode of internet family drama that somehow made reality TV look underwritten. And if this story had you raising an eyebrow, rereading captions, or saying, yeah, that was intentional, then do the algorithm a favor and smash that like button like it's been minding everybody's business but its own. Now drop a comment, because this is where it gets interesting. Was this just a harmless holiday moment, blown out of proportion, or did it quietly redraw family lines in a way nobody wants to admit out loud? Don't be polite. Don't be vague. The comment section is where the real reactions live. And I already know some of y'all saw layers the timeline pretended not to dot, and if you're not subscribed yet, fix that immediately. Hit subscribe like you just realized celebrity drama doesn't come with footnotes, and Celeb SYNC is the only place breaking it down without fake outrage or forced neutrality. We don't scream for clicks, we connect the dots. Turn on notifications too. Because let's be honest, this story isn't done. Family dynamics don't reset overnight, and the next post, reaction, or subtle message could drop when nobody's expecting it. When it does, you'll want to be early, not catching up after the narrative's already been rewritten. This is Celeb SYNC, where the drama isn't just reported, it's decoded. Where silence speaks louder than statements, and where every innocent moment gets examined under a spotlight.